Well, welcome back to the Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happily start to this thirsty Thursday morning, and Bitcoin finally moving. We actually finally have something new to be looking at, and the real question is it buy or sell? Is it up or down? Is it fuck or not, as always? Anyways, in a more sincere tone, I do want to get into the analysis of today because it's actually rather exciting, as we actually do have several new things to be looking at and following up on. And other than that, I want to once again humbly request that if you find this content valuable or in some way meaningful, please do consider liking the video and also doing the old bell icon as well. And at the end of the video, actually, we'll have like a little fun thing as well. But for right now, I want to get right into the price action, and so we'll start off right in over here with the pickoff where we left off yesterday, which was hidden bearish divergence of 1, 2, 3 drive variety on the 12-hour time frame, both CME and spot in this case. And the breakdown continues, looking for that move to the bottom side of the range. We got that thus far, and based off of yesterday's daily closure, something very significant has happened as well, actually, especially over here on spot price action, which is a silver cross to the downside, meaning the yellow 21 has crossed to the downside of the green 55. Even the 9 is also kind of leading up into it, which I just refer to as a Krown cross because that's the 3 moving averages that I like to look at. But in this case, it would be suggesting that, look, as long as Bitcoin is below that 9 exponential moving average on a daily closing basis, pressure remains to the downside, and downside more likely, obviously, in the more short and near time here. Anyways, this is going to be combined with, on the daily for the Joule on CME, a potential downside signal on the Joule, which was a signal that really got going over here on the 18th of April, actually, when Bitcoin was hanging around about 29,000 bucks, and this would be the continuation of that. So it does suggest alongside DMI support that yes, it is indeed red. Downside, the downside move is still, in progress here. Anyways, other than that, I wanted to reference the HPDR ranges, and then we'll get into stochastic momentum, the old herpaderp over here, and I think that it just kind of accurately summarizes the areas of interest to the downside in the more short and medium term, and it does provide an area of interest, obviously, for a bit of a flippening, a bit of a trap condition as well, if it were to happen. Although, for right now, just be 100% clear, when we talk about trap, that's only a potential if Bitcoin were to meet that price. It is obviously not more likely at this point, but it would be right here at the median, which is about 26,650 on a daily closing basis. That is to say, if Bitcoin can pop back above there, essentially the breakdown region from yesterday, then that'd be a good indication that we have a nice little trap hole in our face, and Bitcoin probably marches its way back up closer to 29,000 bucks. But in this case, we can see the bottom side of the 12-hour range is showing about 25 to 50 or so. So that'd be kind of like the first area of interest, if you will. And then the daily is going to be showing 24,800. So I'd be looking at that area as kind of like a range on this particular move, for sort of at least a bouncy bounce attempt. But for right now, it's kind of just watching one thing before the next. And I do want to reiterate something that we've been speaking about on this channel for, I think I started mentioning it back in January when I actually started doing these studies, but Thursday, today, Thirsty Thursday, everyone's fucking thirsty, I guess, is, statistically speaking, the most down day for Bitcoin, meaning that if you are going to have a big down day during the week, it's Thursday, typically speaking. Thursday is just the highest probability, and what do you know? We're at Thursday right now, and Bitcoin, essentially teeter-tottering on the edge of this range low. But I would say that if it's going to break, today would be the day. Looking at volatility indicators as well, that would suggest that pressure is on in the short term. Anyways, yes, so 24,800 to 25,200, let's say, would be my first major area of interest. Assuming that Bitcoin does not reclaim again about 26,650 on a daily closing basis, that is essentially what I'd be looking for, I suppose. Anyways, moving on into stochastic momentum, let's start off right in over here on the daily. The daily obviously is going to turn back down as it did not fulfill the criteria needed in the past couple closures here. And guess where the current pivot is? 26,625 actually. So that is to say, as long as Bitcoin's below that region, well, as you can see, pressure remains to the downside, as we've been stating. 12-hour time frame, also fresh cross down alongside that hidden bearish divergence, and current pivot is 26,900 or so. 6-hour time frame is going to be showing same pressure down below 26,720. 4-hour time frame is going to be showing the same 26,300 or so. So does it try for a short-term bounce here? Definitely possible. I guess that would be sort of the hopium case, as the hourly is also going to be showing upside above of 26,300. But again, any sort of failure to reclaim that 26,600 region or so by the end of the daily closure is very likely to lead towards downwards continuation. So does it try for a bounce first and then continue down, or does it just continue down from here? Well, again, I'd be looking at these lower term time frame pivots to kind of be mindful of that, namely the 26,300-ish region on a closing basis, which we got one coming in about 40 minutes and 56 seconds and counting down. Anyways, this is also in lieu or in conjunction with the 2-day time frame setup that we've been looking at and being mindful of for quite some time now. And it does look like this is not going to be a picture perfect interpretation of this one. It's been a really, really frustrating one, to be honest with you. Usually they're a lot more clean and cut and clear, but in this particular case, it's going to be, it's going to be a little bit sloppy, but fair enough. Anyways, in this case, we did see that 2-day volatility represented by the BBWP indicator got to 10 percentile or lower. That happened a little while ago, actually, and it's since been basing off, and that is coming in conjunction with the 2-day time frame stochastic sort of continuing to point to the downside. And seeing as we just had a closure last night and Bitcoin continued to fail that pivot, which was, I believe, just 26,650 or so, pressure is going to remain to the downside, and the pivot actually goes up, which is typically a sign of further downside to come, now at about 26,850. Now, with this particular setup in mind, the direction of the stochastic oscillator has been correcting it in the direction of the volatility expansion about 81.5% of the time, and it's typically led to a move over the next 19 days or so, at an average of 27%. Now, we can actually stratify this by long and short side, which I've done over here, and if we do look at the short side, we can see that there's been 19 total iterations in the full history of Bitcoin. 16 of those did work out with nice downside fashion, so it actually has a slightly higher hit rate in this case. Average time taken was about 14 days upon expansion, and then the average return was about 20 or just below 26%, with the bottom end of the first standard deviation in like the upper teens. So if we just kind of play around with numbers here, where would that potentially put Bitcoin? Upper teens would put Bitcoin at that like $25,000 region. So I do like how that kind of lines up. If it does go for the average at about, 27, 26%, that's where we could be seeing, a lot lower into like the $21,000 to $22,000-ish region. But one thing before the next, obviously, and I do think that Bitcoin would have a legitimate chance to level out at the, let's just call it $25,000 region, assuming that it gets there to begin with. So of course, as always, is going to, be aligned with assumptions. But what I really want to be seeing here, if this is going to work out, is that the next tick on the volatility indicator really, expands. So we would be expecting this one to like take off in the next 2-day period, 4 days at most, really. So ultimately, this one, needs to move from here, right, like starting today, basically, or I guess starting last night, in order for this to be validated. And then, yes, we can probably reference that model for those major areas of interest to the downside. Again, probably just below 25, and then somewhere between like 21 to 22,000 bucks. And yeah. Anyways, one last thing that I wanted to get into here before we get into the fun thing of the day would be this, just to follow up on the Dixie analysis that we were looking at over the past month and a half now. Continues to move up. Obviously, that first target of about 103.5 was met. I still do remain with my second target somewhere above 105, somewhere like maybe a $1.05 and a quarter, $1.05 and a half. Probably tries for a bit of a pullback there, but looking at the monthly, this one could, after an initial pullback at that 105 region, wouldn't be surprised to see it try higher, actually. Just kind of perusing around the different timeframes here. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this one try a little bit higher, actually, into Q3 of this year. So ultimately, could that be driving price action down on risk assets? Again, the correlation is not like direct, obviously. It'd be better like if you're actually looking at Forex pairs here. But ultimately, that would be, I guess, a narrative play right there. Dollar strengthening, and well, that would be bad for the risk on assets, especially Bitcoin. But of course, one thing before the next, and as always, at least in my experience, better to be watching the actual chart that you are most interested in this case, Bitcoin, and just looking at it right here. Yeah, I mean. It is starting to look, a lot more like a breakdown, obviously. I did want to reference one last thing before we get into the fun thing of the day, and it'll be over here on the 5-day time frame. 5-day time frame stochastic momentum is like coming down pretty fucking hard. Going to be closing tonight, by the way. 30,000 bucks is the current pivot, looking very, very unlikely. But whenever I see a signature like this, where it's like really accelerating that slope to the downside, kind of have to be looking at that. Yeah, and so yeah, I'd be putting that another point in the bear-ass court there for continuation from this region to the downside. Which, fair enough, man, fair enough. 26,650, the big area to be mindful of today, as long as Bitcoin's below there. Downside pressures remain. And for the fun thing of the day, I put out a tweet last night, or better said, my Twitter manager put out a tweet last night. If I were to step in the ring with another YouTube or a crypto Twitter account, who would you want to see? There's actually a significant amount of response to this. A lot of people want to see BitBoy, which would be like pretty hilarious, and even Richard Hart as well. And just a lot of names here. Even Elliot, I would never fight Elliot Traits. He's my friend. He's like a good friend, Not that I necessarily am opposed to fighting friends, but I think it'd be more fun to fight, someone, I don't know, someone who's actually interested in it. But yeah, I was just wanted to say, do the response here. I mean, like, if we wanted to do this, I suppose that we could, just tag whoever you're thinking of, and maybe we can put some together. I think that would be pretty damn cool, and hopefully a lot of fun, and who knows what the hell happens. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw it out right there. It's of course on my Twitter, which you can find at Krown Crypto Cave. I think I'll sign off on that note. I want to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.